Oh, this is going to be lively tonight, isn't it? Good evening. Welcome to the Scottish Football Social Club. After another crazy weekend in our domestic game, 3 league games were played on Saturday. Remember, Hearts extending their lead at the top of the table, then 2 enthralling Premier Sports Cup semi-finals after that. And we're going to bring you all the highlights in the next hour or so. There's plenty of fallout from that Celtic Rangers game in particular. Apparently, not seen it at all on social media today. We'll discuss that later with Neil Lennon when he joins us. And I'm sure that VAR and the refs, sadly, will be brought up again on this show. It's not new in this show, though, if for anyone's just joining us. I think always we try and point out decisions that we agree or don't agree with. So we'll maybe do that again later on tonight. There you go. There's a different look for us tonight. Very nice. Right, we are live on X and YouTube. Any questions, any points, please do send them in. There could be some interesting ones tonight. And a quick note, the Scottish Football Social Club is brought to you in association with SBK and Premier Sports. SBK, a betting app that cuts out the nonsense. Just straight up sports betting for folk who actually care about the game. Proper odds, no gimmicks. Right, Alan and Michael are here. Michael, did you enjoy the weekend?
Yeah, very much so. Thought it was really enjoyable. And
some good games.
Good couple of semi-finals. Good few league games as well. That is some important results there. It's been a pretty enjoyable weekend for me. Yeah. What were you guys?
Who doesn't like a semi, Alan?
Well, I thought some of the games are really good. Enjoyed Sunday, Saturday. I thought it was a cracking game of football. 2 really contrasting styles going up against each other. And then, of course, the Premier games, which had a lot on them. So, yeah, it was another cracking weekend.
No, honestly, some brilliant football was played. We'll get through it all. I think we should just get straight into it, Michael. Should we work our way through the weekend, starting with the Premiership matches and some of the storylines from Saturday then? I'd like to start with Falkirk Kilmarnock, because Falkirk, what a brilliant start to the season they've had, Mikey, overall now. When you look at the points in the table, the quality of some of their play, and the fact that, even before this, losing to Celtic the manner they did, nothing seems to really affect them or bother them. They just stay on course.
Absolutely. I mean, I think, the first month or so, it's fair to say, like a good number of the teams, things were just stuttering along a little bit. Loved that little dive and run from Calvin Miller in the reverse pass. Brilliant play. A great goal. Really good goal. And I think you're starting to see Falkirk now having found their feet, and, they're getting back into the rhythm of the football that they like to play. The first month or so, you can't hide the fact, though, that defensively they were shipping too many cheap goals. I think on the whole they've got better defensively, and at the top end of the park things are clicking a bit smoother for them. And it's not to say that predicting that Falkirk are going to be comfortable this season, and they may well still end up in the bottom 6, but they're a side that it's not surprising to me that they've been able to compete and get some good results and find themselves, motoring up the table at this moment in time, to be honest.
Alan, I know you've seen a fair bit of Falkirk. What has impressed you most about the way they've gone about their business so far this season back in the top flight?
They literally don't change their philosophy or the way they want to play for anybody. And they have their beliefs and they stick to it, whether it's intricate play, getting the ball out wide, crosses into the box. They play to their strength, and I think we see that. I think, 1 loss in the last 5 kind of shows you where they're at this moment in time. And I think they have had halves, especially first halves, where they've started a wee bit slow. I think this game was different. They were on it from the first whistle. They were creating opportunities, making it really difficult for Kilmarnock. Going in at half-time, 3-0 up, I mean, it just shows you how well they were playing. Kilmarnock defensively were all over the place, tried to change it to a back 4, had to make changes at half-time to try and kind of stem the flow. But I think overall the game was done by then. Kilmarnock were better in the second half. They had a couple of opportunities and you see them scoring the goal there. But overall, I thought Falkirk really, really deserved the 3 points.
Yeah, they did. Mikey, on Kilmarnock, just going into a wee bit more detail then on them. It's bizarre, and I guess maybe not surprising, it's Scottish football, how quickly things can turn, because it wasn't long ago we had Stuart Kettlewell in this programme saying how much the fans had taken to him at Killie, and they've been so close in some games. I know that was a poor first half, but so close in some games. Probably deserving of more points, right?
Yeah, over the piece. But I mean, I think you just touched on it there. I think it just speaks to what the league is for so many of the teams this season. That it's always pretty tight amongst a good chunk of the teams, but even more so now, it feels almost like a bit like the Championship. In terms that anyone can beat anybody, apart from perhaps that sort of top few teams. Everybody's taking points off each other. Teams have been on pretty good runs, and then, as you said, quite quickly it's turned and it's going south. And certainly for Kilmarnock at the moment, Stuart Kettlewell, he's been pretty critical of his side the last few games, shipping too many poor goals.
10 in 4 games, by the way.
Aye. So it feels like they need to just have a wee, reset and get back to the basics of defending well. Because if you're never getting clean sheets and you're shipping so many goals like that, you're giving yourself a mountain to climb. And as good as we think some of those guys at the top end are for them, they're not the sort of team that you envisage scoring 3s and 4s every week to salvage 3 points.
No. Yeah, point well made. Right, Mike, you'll enjoy this one. On to Hearts against Dundee then. 4 more for Hearts. And I think
still on the fence.
He's still on the fence, mate. 9 points clear, Michael. I know you are excited about the way Hearts are playing this season, but also I thought what was really important about this win was Derek McInnes makes changes. And if anything doesn't work out, all of a sudden people point and say, oh, you shouldn't have brought this player out the team. But other players seem to go in and step up. And is that not a sign of A, a good unit, but B, a really strong dressing room and squad?
Well, of course. I mean, look, the place will be absolutely sky high at the moment in terms of confidence and belief. Great to see Lawrence Shankland back in the Scotland squad.
Yeah,
thoroughly
I'll
deserved.
come to that, yeah.
Because I think, he started the season well and quietly built up. And, he scored some cracking goals. I mean, that goal was an absolute belter. The first one to get off the mark. This is a great goal as well, by the way. Kabore, he's the first to react. And that's a nonchalant finish. The ball's coming back to him. It's bouncing around and he just calmly passes it into the back of the net. But the overall move, great link-up play between the front men. It's a great strike from Spittle as well.
Yeah.
And then he just calmly passes that into the back of the net. So, looking at this game beforehand, you're thinking it's important that Hearts get 3 points at home. Just to put to bed the slight concern a few people would probably have had at dropping points to St Mirren. You get a good result at the weekend and all of a sudden you start thinking, well, maybe that point of pace wasn't so bad.
Yeah.
And I was thinking before the game, I thought, you want to put in a pretty dominant performance as well. I was thinking 3-0 would be good. Anything below 3, you take it, of course, but 3-0 and above, it then becomes a bit more of a statement result. And this was 4, and it could have been more, and all the reasons you just pointed to as well. Spittle comes in and plays well. You've got Steinbender coming in at the back and is competent, solid. And Kabore comes in up top and scores 2. So you're saying that is a really competitive squad. You've still got the likes of McCart, Frankie Kent's out injured, to play at the back. You've got Harry Milne going back to left back, who's outstanding at left back. Kingsley's there as well. You've got the options in midfield with Spittle coming in there. Kizaridis goes out to the right. Kabore's up top. Braga's on the bit. I mean, it is a squad that is really, really loaded. Loads of options. And of course, Ajou to come back and get fit. And Chesnikov to come in January. And may well be more coming in too.
Two people, by the way. Few people are messaging, just saying tonight that there's a couple of streams. One of them seems a bit clearer than the other. So hopefully people are watching in the right stream and they can actually see us if they want to see us tonight. Anyway, we'll push on. Yeah, look, as they'll be hoping it's not another hamstring problem, Michael, because obviously Hearts fans still want to see more of him. And you heard what Derek McInnes said about him on this programme and how excited he is. So they'll have their fingers crossed on that one. Chesnikov. Interesting one, some of the headlines today.
Reading that earlier.
Have you seen it, Alan? I mean, look, if Hearts had got one a pre-contract, you would.
See, that's where I'm confused.
Extraordinary would have to happen, right?
Yeah, seemingly, obviously, there's other clubs that have been linked with him, but if you've got a pre-contract that's in place and signed, and he's meant to be coming, in a month's time, how do you renege on that and go back? I don't really get it. I don't understand.
Well, it'd be a legal case all of a sudden, wouldn't it?
Exactly.
Yeah, but also the thing is here. My understanding is that Hearts have already started paying him because his contract finished in October.
Well, you can't walk away then from that, surely.
That's my understanding, that obviously he can't register until January because it's the window.
Yeah.
But my understanding was that the contract with Hearts has started in October because that was when his contract had finished. And
Well, he's coming then.
Hearts were having to start paying him in October. That was my understanding. I heard that pretty much from the horse's mouth. So I would be extremely surprised if there was something that happened that pulled the plug on that deal. So
we'll see what happens. You'd imagine it will go through in the end. Hearts fans clearly will be hoping so because he looks like a really talented player. Just hearing from Ben, our producer, if there is a problem with the YouTube feed tonight, you can head to X. Apparently there's no problems on X, or you can just watch a bit of us on YouTube. The bits you can
prefer that.
I think most people would prefer that, Al, to be fair. Michael, 9 points clear, okay? And I know it could have been even better. I don't think there's any problem at all, by the way, with going to Paisley, playing all right for large spells in the game and taking a point, and then winning again at the weekend, because that keeps momentum going, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying to you. That result at the weekend, I think, then frames the result in Paisley. And it was dominant, 4 goals, going on more, changes to the team. You're behind twice in Paisley as well. So you're thinking to yourself, they've had to come and fight and get back into it. So, no, I think in the long run, once they rack up, 3 points at the weekend there, potentially another 3 points against Dundee United, that's obviously the key thing, is just keep racking the points up. And in time, you look at that point in Paisley and you go, that was an important point. Because you're never going to go like right throughout the whole campaign and win every single game. That's just not going to happen. But for Hearts, 9 points clear. Granted, there's a game in hand for Celtic. That game in hand, I think it's the middle of December by the time they actually play it. So there's other things that can happen in between then. Like, for example, Hearts and Celtic, I think they'll be playing each other at the start of December prior to that. So there's other games that are going to come along. So it's going to be an interesting little spell up until January for me now. Up until the turn of the year, we'll get a real sense of how
Are you going to wait until then? Are you going to wait until then to give us your real thoughts? Can they do it? When are you going to give us your real opinion?
My real thoughts.
He said they're playing for second, Al.
Oh, does he actually believe that? Or
well, I've told you already. It's not so much playing for. I think they are favourites for second, because as much as Danny Rule is a vast improvement at Rangers, Rangers have got some structural issues with their team, and they are 14 points behind Hearts with a game in hand. So say, give them the 3. That's 11. Are Rangers going to make up 11 points on Hearts over the course of the season? I don't think they will.
They just need to make up 5 points at Celtic.
What do you want, Al? Honestly, come on. Aspirations.
Small steps. The manager said it. It's small steps.
I know. We've been here with you before. I thought Harry Milne was excellent in the game again. And just going back to Shankland, Alan, are you really happy? I guess it's at the expense of guys like Kieran Bowie, but are you happy, given the form, given where Hearts are as well, and he's the leader of the team?
He deserves to be in it.
Squad?
He deserved. I thought he should have been in the last one as well. So, I mean, Kieran Bowie, he didn't play there at the weekend. We all know that he's went through a bit of a dry spell. Lawrence Shankland has been excellent and sees well with him. I think, like in previous seasons, there's been a lot of pressure on him to get the numbers that were needed. You look at that Hearts team at the moment, like there's goals from everywhere, from wide, from whoever the strikers are, from the boys at the back. It's goals all over the pitch, and I think that's a massive part of why they are where they are. But it's really good to see him back in. You want to see him doing well because we know he can score goals, and he's a great guy as well, so you want to see him doing well.
And we'll need goals. You'd imagine we'll need goals. Big games to come. Michael, if he wasn't going to get back in at this point, given the form of guys like Kieran Bowie and the goal-scoring exploits, you'd imagine, when would he ever get back in? So it feels right, doesn't it?
Oh, 100%. 100%. And look, it's understandable as well, because, I was making the case for Kieran Bowie at the start of the season. I thought he should have started, led the line, to be honest. But ever since then, he has definitely tapered off. He's still very young, so look, his time will come. But for Lawrence Shankland, the here and the now, as I said to you, I think he started the season not poorly, but it's been a slow build-up. Yeah. Performances were quite good. Goals were coming here and there. But for me, the last 4 or 5 weeks, or probably since the Rangers game at Ibrox, and Derek McInnes spoke so highly of him in terms of the way he led the line, He obviously scored the rebound off his penalty kick as well. You can just start to see he's really started to put his whole game together. That goal at the weekend was an absolute cracker. It was a standout. And he thoroughly deserves to be in the national team. And, you know, I mean, it's very much the case of if Lawrence Shankland continues to do this and Hearts are still continuing to sit right up there competing for the title, then he, as the captain and the top goal scorer in the league, by the way, is taking a serious claim to be leading the team.
I was going to say that. Would you start? That's what I was just going to ask you.
Would I at the moment? I'm not totally sure or convinced at this stage, but he's making a strong case for it.
I still think it's up for grabs. That starting berth in Scotland. I think nobody's kind of taken it with both hands and really fired the goals that you really need. So I think he's definitely a massive option for him, especially on form. You can quite clearly see that he's very confident.
We need a goalkeeper as well, by the way. Maybe Craig Gordon gets back in the team. Scott Bain's back in this squad after a long time out of it. So, look, I'm sure we can talk more about that next week. Just briefly on Dundee, Alan. Hard to know really what to say about them because there's been glimpses. You think the recent Celtic game of how good they can be, but then performances against Aberdeen, then that against Hearts, where I think most people watching on, including Stephen Presley, would agree that they were outclassed for large parts of the game. That's a red flag, isn't it? It's a long season.
Yeah, I just don't really know what you're going to get when we watch them from week to week. Defensively, at times they look solid. I think when they counter-attack, like the Celtic game, they look good. Everybody was at it and on it. But it's getting that balance right for me between, because they have got players, Congreve, guys like that can go and hurt teams. But I just don't think you see it enough. And look, see at Tynecastle there, they were just overpowered at every level, and they just couldn't deal with it. So look, I think it's going to be a struggle for them this season because they need to get the balance right, as I'm saying.
See that game at Tynecastle? See, for me, that just looked like what you would historically have seen from like a Celtic side or Rangers back in the day when they were like when you were there, and they've had a away game, a little bit of a slip up, they dropped points. Game at home against one of the teams at the lower end of the table, and they've literally just swatted them aside and looked like so commanding.
By the way,
goals could have been more.
Taking changes, like do you think of the changes as well? Do you know what I mean? Like you're right, Milne, like Spittle going inside, him being able to go, like use his power, get up the line, crosses, had a few shots. He looked really comfortable, really good in that position. Like if they can get the right back things sorted out. I know McEntee's went in there and done well. I think if that's a bit of a puzzle at this moment in time, if they can really get that nailed down, this team looks really strong and just all pulling in the one direction. Great manager, fans are behind them, really strong squad, and they're so confident. And like you literally said, they just swatted them away. Thanks for coming. We'll take 3 points, clean sheet, 4 goals, bye, on to the next one.
Yeah. Just to say, by the way, just to go back to on the feed tonight, for anyone who's still stuck in the feed that doesn't look so good, apparently there's a glitch on YouTube tonight. One of the feeds were landscape, one of them were portrait. I don't know which one would look better in. Probably neither.
You see a couple of necks and a head, a forehead.
I can see that one as well. But anyway, apparently one of the 2 feeds is working absolutely fine. So maybe you could. I know. I was just thinking that. There you go. That's for the other feed. But anyway, right. Anyway, you can head to the right feed or X. Okay, so I think most people have done that by now. We must move on, Michael. Livy Hibs. Drama in this game, a really questionable offside decision as well, which maybe I'll come back to. But just on Hibs, Michael, can you work them out right now? Disappointing, I thought, against Rangers at times during the week as well. And we've showered them with praise at times in the last, 6 months or so in this programme. Yeah. Why is it not quite clicking across the board now?
Don't know. Honestly, because I think I was saying this last week. You look at the players that they've recruited, and I think the squad is a lot stronger than it was last year. The goalkeeper's an improvement, Salinger. Grant Hanley's a great signing. Mulligan's a good signing. Chaiwa's a good signing. McGrath's a good signing.
Cleege now as well.
Cleege's a good signing. And Borlasser's a good signing. There's not a single guy that you look at and go, that's made the team weaker. You know, the team, to me, looks a lot stronger. So, to answer your question, I'm not sure what it is. Whether is it just that a bit of bad fortune, things not going their way, I don't know. I honestly don't. But I do like.
It's like they have dips in games.
Yes.
Like, you know what I mean? Like they get themselves in front and then they lose a horrendous goal, or the timing of the goal's not great. And then they kind of struggle after that. Aye.
They're being punished. I just think that you can't just, write it off and go, no problem, got a good team, we'll work it out, we'll be fine. Because see, at the moment, the way Hibs are, you've dropped another 2 points there at Livy. They dropped 2 points away against Falkirk when they were 2-0 up. They dropped 2 points at home when they were at Killie and they were 2-0 up. And they dropped another 2 points.
Yeah. Imagine how different that could have looked.
And the other game was St Mirren at home, which granted was quite a eeksy-peeksy game, but they had a they should have had a penalty in the last minute and they didn't get it. That's 8 points. That's 8 points. Hibs would be sitting on 23 points, second in the table.
The margins here as well, this kind of thing.
This, honestly, see,
he looks on there.
Yeah, exactly. So,
he looks on to me.
Huts, this is. I was talking about this before, about offside, and you show the lines, and that means nothing to me because you're still looking, going, who, where's it?
Correct.
So, for me, the options are that you have offside where it's like daylight, or there's a body of a difference between the players, which I think is too much because it would look terrible. They concede. We'll talk about this penalty first of all, which I can see why it's given, but that's the only angle I've seen.
The one at the back, you see it, Mikey.
I've not seen it.
It looks like a handball, Michael. It does look like a handball.
The one from the back, he's out. His arm's probably about like here.
Aye. So, I mean, from there, you're thinking it's quite close. It does look like his arm's out, but it was difficult to tell from that angle.
Anyway, by the way.
Look, it's a great penalty. They drop more points. But the point I was going to make about the offside is this. If you were to do offside and there was meant to be daylight between the players, I think the optics of that would look like the striker has such a big advantage. So I don't think that's probably something we're going to do. But see, for incidents like that, and I think offside in general, let's stop drawing lines, because the lines, you get people who are offside by like a toenail. And that's not, to me, the spirit of football. To wait 5 minutes, to draw a line, to find out that their kneecap is offside, which gains zero advantage. I think, and Rory and Hamilton and I were talking about this yesterday, get VAR to look at it. You can pause it, but don't go drawing lines, and you have a limited period of time to look at it to say, is the right decision being... So, for example, if the linesman flags, you look at it and you go, yes or no, and then you can pull the ref over, and he gets a limited period of time to look at the still and make a decision. So that we're...
without lines, so it's just a...
I've got a thought on it, Michael, and maybe no one's interested, but let me put this forward.
I'm interested, Darrell. Let's go.
I actually spoke to Howard Webb about this when it was first being introduced, right? Now, different leagues, as you know, now have semi-automated offsides.
Yes.
They are far more accurate than we have in Scotland, particularly on games like we've just seen, because there's only a certain amount of cameras, right? And the pitch is computed, and the VAR, right? They take angles in. When you draw those lines, first of all, people say, well, he's either on or off. Well, no, because it's still question of human error. When the ball's passed, when the ball leaves the foot, exactly what point of the body you're marking. To me, that means there's always the possibility of a small margin of error. Yeah. And I remember talking to Howard Webb about this years ago, about why not, in the leagues that want to then take it on, that don't have the best technology available, build in a margin of error. What that means is, you know exactly the distance, right? Because it's all computed. What those two lines, the red and the blue line, are apart. Yeah. You could add to the computer system a 6-inch margin of error. And that would then, if you're within the 6-inch margin of error, you could then say it's onside, because you're then accepting that the system is imperfect in Scotland. But if all the clubs agreed to that, then you wouldn't get any more toenail offsides. Yeah, and I think, what do we want to see? Some goals? Doesn't it make more common sense to allow that sort of stuff to take place, especially when you know there is potentially human error still at work here? So why not do that?
See that one with Kieran Bowie? And it's the same with the Maeda one on Sunday. It's exactly like you say, because we all know how it works in terms of in the trucks, when you've got you roll it on a frame or you roll it back a frame, and it still looks like the ball is touching somebody's foot, but all of a sudden you roll it forward another frame and it completely changes where somebody's standing.
100%.
So
I like the
also,
thought of having a certain amount of time. See what you said, Mikey? Have a certain amount of time, look at it, no lines, because I don't know how many times I've seen that now. I still think he looks onside.
Yeah,
me too.
I know.
It's just my opinion. Like it might not be, but just from my eyes looking at it, he looked onside. Good goal. Right, move on. It's too tight.
The margin of error idea is a similar thing, though, Alan. That's the thing.
No,
it's almost
I know. It
almost a
sounds good.
fail-safe.
So let's get it started now. Then let's get on.
I would love to see it. I'd love to see it. By the way, some good points were coming in Hibs as well, including one, I think, from me, not me, but that was the name on YouTube there, about maybe not replacing Triantis, which is a good point. A couple of other players were mentioned there as well. Anyway, Livingston, another point on the board for them. Michael, obviously they're not chalking up enough points right now, but I think they're still showing there's a lot about them at times in matches.
It's important, important. Yeah, I think so. I mean, we've not spoken about this, but Ryan McGowan being out has clearly not helped them. And, obviously I'd messaged Ryan a while ago, and I don't know if you were aware, I think it's sort of come out now. He had an absolutely horrific, illness and injury in his calf that swelled right up, and he had to get pretty much emergency. He had an abscess in his calf that was going to, I would imagine, be pretty difficult to recover from. So he's a captain, he's a leader, he's been missing. It's not helped him. But I do think that there are moments and there's passages of a lot of the games that I've seen from Livy that they're competitive, they look okay. I do honestly think that bottom of the table, it could be pretty tight come the end of the season. I don't think
we're not tight now.
Yeah, I know, and I don't think we're going to see a team get caught adrift. If you know what I mean, I think it'll be quite competitive.
Mikey, see, at times they look capable. Like you see the goal that they scored. Like they can play at times. I think that they overplay as well, cause a lot of problems for themselves.
Yeah,
but it's the amount of goals they concede. What is it? It's like 20 plus goals they've conceded. And yeah, I mean, I thought they'd done actually well against a Hibs team that would probably be expected to go and win that game. They showed they had ability, but 1 win in 11. Do you know what I mean? The amount of goals that they're conceding, it is a worry. But that being said, it is still quite tight at the bottom. So you go and put a couple of results together and then we'll see what happens.
Right, let's get on to the Premier Sports Cup semi-finals now then. Neil Lennon is waiting in the wings here, so let's get him on the show now. Neil, how are you doing? Are you recovered from the madness of yesterday?
Oh yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was a real sort of toe-to-toe game. It was dramatic. The atmosphere was fantastic. For a semi-final, Darrell, which are usually tense and quite fraught, I thought there was a lot of chances for both teams and a lot of obviously controversy as well.
Yeah. Oh, we'll get to it. And I thought Martin O'Neill was brilliant value with you guys after the game too, by the way. Absolutely brilliant to watch. I really enjoyed listening to him. Always do, actually. He's great on the telly and obviously in the dugout as well right now. Right, I will come back to Celtic Rangers, Neil, but while you're here, if you don't mind, let's talk Motherwell St Mirren, because what an outstanding performance from the Saints in the first cup semi-final. And at times people talk about style and stuff, Neil, with St Mirren, but what a job Stephen Robinson's done recruitment. They score some brilliant goals, and isn't that what all fans like to see?
Yeah, I mean, they're a well-organised team. I think it's quite condescending to call them, quite a direct team. They've got good players, they know what they're doing, they're well coached, and they score goals. They've got power, and it's a certain way of playing. It's effective. It works for the squad of players that he has. I think this is Stephen's third cup final now.
Yeah,
we were talking with the lads yesterday about it. So that's quite an achievement to do it with teams of the ilk of Motherwell and St Mirren. So yeah, I mean, Motherwell get back into the game. You think there's going to be a rally, but the mentality of the St Mirren team as well it's really strong. My son was there for a couple of seasons, working there with the coaches, and he loved it. Got really well coached, great education. So it's a club that's really well run behind the scenes as well, Darrell.
Yeah, absolutely. And Stephen Robinson was on the programme recently. We were showering him with praise too, Alan, weren't we? Alan, of course, you picked Motherwell, so you must have been delighted with this result.
But look, I hate giving. Honestly, I hate doing that. But I just thought with the style of football on the big pitch, they'd have opportunities. I think they lack a striker, like a real proper striker that can get you the goals, because in terms of how they play, very good. Good football, move the ball about quickly. But I think they played into St Mirren's hands, really. St Mirren were quite happy to sit off the game, allow them to come on. And when they pinched the ball, and I know I talk about them getting the ball forward, but it's with quality.
Yeah.
And Motherwell were so open at times that it made it kind of relatively easy for St Mirren. They worked the spaces really well, got in behind them. Some of the goals were great. I mean, Lundalou's strike, that one there, Mandron, that was a brilliant finish as well. And they thoroughly deserved it. And Motherwell just couldn't come up with answers. I really, and I think I've said this from the start of the season, they need a proper striker for me that's going to go and get you the number of goals that they need to go along with the play.
Yeah. Michael, on St Mirren, there's a lot of leadership in the team as well. You look at the options in midfield. I was listening to Gogic after the game, Jim Goodwin talking with you guys, talking about the character in the dressing room too. They've got that in spades, don't they?
Yeah, I think that's obviously a large part of the success that Stephen Robinson has put together is due to recruiting that type of character. You know, we've spoken to Stephen Robinson, and I think he, was quite open about that in terms of, being a huge attribute that he looks for and finding out what the players are like. You look at St Mirren and you don't imagine there are too many folk in the changing room who are sulking in the corner. You just imagine that if they were, there's a few of them that would be telling them, buck up their ideas and get running. It just seems like that type of place. And I suppose that comes from the manager. It comes from the top and plays its way right through the team. Gogic for me is a huge part of that. When he was at Hibs, I thought he was so important. He gave Hibs great balance in the middle of the park. And they got rid of him too soon, too quickly for me, Hibs. And they paid the price. That soft centre creeped back into Hibs' team. And he's done a great job at St Mirren. Anchors the defence, reads the game brilliantly. And, there's no nonsense with him. I think he's an absolute standout for St Mirren.
Do you know what they've got, Mike? He's got a team of men.
Yeah.
Men, players who know some who know the division, they recruit well. Olasanya went last year, but he tops his team up with good strikers, physical at the top end of the pitch. Back three that's always pretty consistent and well balanced, and then good workers in midfield, and people like O'Hara who can break forward. They're really slick at times to watch, and it didn't surprise me them beating Motherwell, but they've also given the old firm a bloody nose here and there along the way as well.
Yeah,
any team that goes to play St Mirren, this is why I was obviously talking about Hearts midweek there. It'll be looked upon as a good point in Paisley now, followed up with the victory at Tynecastle. Any team that goes to play St Mirren, you just know you're thinking, it's not one you're looking forward to. Nobody's looking forward to playing, and there's certain other teams that play nice football, and you go up and play against them, and you're like, I'm looking forward to this game. It'll be an enjoyable. You go and play St Mirren and it is not going to be enjoyable. You're going to have to, first and foremost, you're going to have to just match their commitment, desire. Because if you don't, you'll get run over the top of.
Just going back to the recruitment, Neil, I mean, how difficult is it on that kind of budget to go down to markets, even like England, lower leagues, to find the kind of the gems that they've got? And I've watched a lot of English football, as down the years, Neil, and worked on the game. And I know you've watched a lot of football, down south as well. But guys like Mandron, who were doing okay for their clubs down south, but he seems to bring them to Scotland and almost improve their finishing. In Lundaloo, another example as well. How difficult it is to continue to do that, Neil?
No, I think he knows the market down there from his time, with Morecambe and possibly Oldham. I think he's got good contacts down there. But what Stephen does is he knows the type of player that he wants. First of all, he knows the profile of the player, and then he looks around. He looks around for. And to sell St Mirren can be difficult sometimes, but on the other side of that, Darrell, you can sell it as, look, you're coming to play in the top league in Scotland. Your profile's going to go through the roof if you do well. And it could be, you could sell it as a stepping stone for them for something else. But they seem so settled there. They seem so like a band of brothers that they're quite happy to stay there for 1, 2, 3 years and reap the rewards of they've had 3 or 4 top sixes in a row. I mean, that's incredible consistency. And now they've made a cup final as well. I don't think Stephen can do any more, Darrell, than what he's doing at the minute.
Yeah,
He's
Freckleton's mentioned
he's
as well
rinsing
there, by the
every
way.
bit out of that squad of players.
Yeah, agreed. Freckleton, another one who's been really, really good. And because of the personnel,
Well,
Michael, you give them a chance against anyone, don't you? As a really good cup team.
Absolutely. But I was just going to say, when you look at Olasanya, for example, I think that speaks to into what Lenny's saying there. Floated around down south, goes to St Mirren. He's got to move to the MLS, and I know he's back. He's been on loan down south, but that move's not happening if he didn't go to St Mirren. And these are the things that are impressive. When I look at Stephen Robinson, as Lenny says, he's got a clarity in his ideas about what he's wanting. John McGlynn's the same, but a completely different profile of player. John McGlynn knows what he's looking for, and he's brought in like the likes of obviously Barney Stewart that Lenny's got on loan, and he's plucked him from Heriot-Watt University. So he knows what he's wanting, and it doesn't matter, what level he's looking at. He's going, they've got the attributes that I think will help the team. And more often than not, those players come in and actually they do a good job.
It's great for Scottish football, that's for sure. Do you give them a chance, Neil, in the final against Celtic?
Yeah. Celtic will be strong favourites, but one thing St Mirren will make it difficult for Celtic. They'll be a tough nut to beat, and I think its set players will be, a threat. Do I think they'll win it? Probably not. I think Celtic will probably have too much quality, but you wouldn't rate St Mirren off. They can, like I say, they give anybody in this division a game on the day.
They do. Right, on to Sunday. Neil, I'll stick with you here. Celtic came right out the blocks fast, didn't they? You could tell that Martin O'Neill really, whatever he said, he had them fired up, playing maybe a little bit more direct, a bit quicker, which is something Brendan Rodgers had talked about. But to come in and to do this right away is not easy. Neil, how impressed were you with the way they started the match?
Yeah, I really like the start of the game. I like the tempo that they played at. I like the physicality of the team. He looked more like himself, Maeda. His work rate with the ball and off the ball was a lot better. I thought the left back Sirachi, was it was the first time I'd seen him live. I thought he was very forceful going forward, and to put Rangers on the back foot. Having said that, in the first half, and me and Alan were talking about it, Rangers had 3 really good chances to get back into the game after Johnny Kenny scored the opening goal. So
you're about to see
in these games, it's always important to get the first goal, and I think Celtic deserved the lead at the time.
This was their first real bit of good play. I thought Celtic put them on the back foot. They had to be defensively solid. He has to score that. I know Schmeichels came out and made himself big, but he has to put that in the net. I mean, he's been brought for these big moments. He had 2 in the first half, and then Raskin had a big opportunity as well. And look, great header. But I just think from a Rangers point of view, Raskin's at the near post. It goes over his head, fair enough. Watch Magoma. Go and be aggressive with him. He's the same height as you. He's not towering above you. Go and be aggressive. Contact with him. Try and put him off. He doesn't even jump. And then you're behind in the game. And look,
this was a big chance for me, Alan. This is a big chance. He's got to score. And I have to say, Darrell...
Did they go across him? I don't know.
Yeah. I thought on the day both goalkeepers were outstanding at times, and Schmeichel really came up trumps here for Celtic. It's a good save, but he's gone near post. And I thought this was a great chance as well. Chermiti, he only has to make firm contact on the ball. He's got a great chance. I mean, that's 3 or 4 yards out.
He has to go in with confidence. That's what you expect from your striker, and just get good contact on it. But see, there was little things like Jigger. I thought his first touch in the game was horrendous. See the one he booted right out the pitch, and he just looked nervous after that. He looked like a problem. I felt for Asgard. Look, I think this is a red card. Well, it is a red card. He's not meant it. I don't think he's tried to hut Ralston there. He's tried to do a little bit of skill, bring the ball down. He's unfortunate, but the right decision was made. You see here, it's way up high. Looks like he tries to pull out as well a little bit when he realises, but it's a red card for me.
Yeah. Let's come back to some of the controversy. I know it'll come through here. You'll see the Trusty incident in a moment as well. Michael, just generally, because we're going to look at these incidents again, okay? So just generally on the game, a brilliant cup tie. Rangers deserve quite a bit of credit, don't they, for the way they hung in down to 10 men?
100. Well, by the way, this is the point, though. They didn't just hang in. You know, in the second half, Rangers were what looked like the more dangerous side. Having said that, Celtic had good chances in the second half as well. Like, Celtic were dominant in the first. Rangers had good chances. Second half, Rangers for me were looking more dangerous, but Celtic did have good chances. Now this is obviously a huge moment in the game. Trusty's lucky, no reason for him to do what he did, but let's be clear, he doesn't kick him, he doesn't stud him, he touches his head, which could constitute...
So it's dangerous then?
Well, yeah, but some could constitute that as endangering the opponent, which I understand. But for me, I don't think he does because there isn't enough force in that. So I think yellow card is the right decision.
So if it was a red, do you think they're overturning it?
No chance. No way.
Right.
They would not have overturned it. No. And I don't think you would be able to, make a strong case to say, well, he shouldn't have been sent off. But I do think, just looking at the incident in isolation, I think the right decision was made by the officials, a yellow card, personally.
Okay, and we will come back to it. Neil, do you think Celtic can now kick on, I should say, because there's a big European game around the corner as well against Midtjylland. Do you think you'll see a consistent Celtic moving forwards now with Martin in charge?
I think yesterday will give them a huge shot in the arm. They've got the supporters back on side as well. They've got a cup final to look forward to, so they can park that now and concentrate on the up and coming games and get a level of consistency of performance. So, yeah, it's not going to be easy in Midtjylland. They've got some difficult games coming up in the Europa League. But I think, the previous two games, the 4-0 against Falkirk and obviously the performance yesterday and the win, yeah, I think we'll see a more consistent Celtic winning games, and winning with a bit of power and a bit of panache. I enjoyed them at times yesterday. I thought they created some great chances. I thought young Osman, when he came on, was a real threat. Someone who has been on the periphery of the squad, but he scored a good goal and had a great save made by Butland from a header and had a one-on-one which he probably should have done better with, but he was a threat. So he's a bonus. Johnny Kenny's got 3 goals in the last 2 games, and then hopefully you'll see more of Maeda, more of the big players. Like Forrest did great there. There's his Osman, big chance. Couldn't get out of his feet. But I really liked the look of this kid. I thought he was a real threat when he came on, a little buzzbomb. And he'll add a little bit of value and, attacking impetus to, let's get it right. They haven't scored as many goals as they should have done so far this season, Celtic. But yeah, no question. I think Martin will bring a bit more power, front foot football to the team and bit more belief that they've had in the last few weeks as well.
Yeah, it's a shame Osmond is not in the European squad, by the way, so obviously can't feature during the week, but they need to win that game, really, Celtic, to progress. Jack Butland here. Alan, I know Neil's already said he made some brilliant saves in the game. That's a hell of a strike, by the way, but
it's a brilliant strike.
Does he have to keep it out?
It's a difficult. I've watched it a good few times now, and possibly, yeah. I think when he looks back at it, I thought it took a wee nick, but it didn't. Probably when he looks back at it, he'll maybe think they could do better. He looked like he was already kind of past the ball. Yeah, but I tell you what a strike. But do you know what? He'd done this for a large periods of the game where he came up with huge saves to keep Rangers in the game, in my opinion.
Huge moment this Alan.
He needs to take a lot of credit. I'd have went down, me personally. But it was unlucky. I think it shows you what Danny Rule's all about, in my opinion. They go down to 10 men. Half time they change it, they go 4-3-2. He wasn't happy with just trying to sit in and try and maybe nick a goal. They actually went for it. They were more attacking, they were on the front foot, they had good opportunities. I just feel like, see, towards the end now, they ran out of steam. They gave absolutely everything. You seen when like Raskin came off, he was bent over doubled, he ran himself into the ground. They gave them absolute everything, and Celtic were just too powerful come then. But I think you can take a lot of positives out of the game moving forward, because the problem for Rangers the last few games is, yes, they had back-to-back wins. Defensively, they looked more solid for me, but you need more from the forward players, I think, in my opinion, right across the board. I think they all have to up their game if they want to kind of go to the next level.
That's the thing for Rangers, and the slight concern is that I think there is no doubt that Danny Rule deserves a lot. The players obviously for executing it, but watching that game, that just tells you that Danny Rule, he sees the game as it's unfolding. He's not just a manager that, like, here's my team and on you go and play, and plan A is not working and he doesn't have a clue what to do. He's looked at that game, they've gone down to 10 men, and at half time, 15 minutes, He's changed the system, made a sub, and got across a whole different message to the team. And they went out, and the clarity was there. The performance was good. They didn't just, like you were saying, they didn't just hold on. They looked like a threat. They went up and after Celtic. So his message to them was clear, and it was concise, and it was effective. They were hurting Celtic. They were disrupting them, and they were down to teammate. I thought it was outstanding from Danny Rule. But the big concern for Rangers is that, as Hutch just said, Chermiti looks far from convincing yet again. Danilo, he scores a great goal against Hibs, but realistically, it doesn't look like he's going to, do the job that Rangers need. And Miovski looks like a different player than the one that was at Aberdeen. So the front line is a bit of an issue, and they've obviously spent a lot of money on that front line. And
the other point, Mikey, Rangers have played really well against Celtic in the last 4 or 5 games, and they played well at times last season in Europe.
Yeah.
The problem they had was consistency, week in, week out, and that's what Danny Rule has to get, Darrell. He has to get the mentality right in the dressing room to go, right, yeah, we've played well, park that. Now we got the next game, the domestic game or European game. We have to get consistency of performance and beat the teams that we are expected to beat. They've not done that for quite a while.
Yeah.
The next game, by the way, Alan, as you know, is Roma, a team who are going really well in Serie A. If Rangers start like they did against Celtic defensively, they're in big bother. I don't think it was a game in the end that has done any favours for Kevin Thelwell, because the chat off the game is how poor Giga was in the first half. Paid a big fee, remember, to get him in on loan.
Carol, he should have been taken off after his first strike. That ball nearly went out of the stadium.
Exactly.
He looked a bag of nerves.
But it doesn't help the man that I think is the focus of a lot of the anger from the Rangers fans right now, does it? When guys like Chermiti and Miovski and others, the amount of money that's been spent, are underperforming consistently regardless of the manager. And I know things can turn and change, Alan, but so far it doesn't look very good in that regards, does it? And there's another window around the corner.
Yeah, I think we've spoken about this numerous times, that the recruitment has not been good enough. Whether it's they've recruited the wrong type. I thought it was screaming out for leaders to come in, experienced players to help out, and then you can bring some young players or whatever, and you can drag them along through with you and get better that way. Recruitment's not been great. Thelwell's under pressure, and I actually asked the manager when I interviewed him about the structure and how it works, and it's a collective between them, seemingly, that they look at key targets and who they're going to bring in. What that looks like come the end, who's actually going to make the final decision, we'll wait and see. But to this moment in time, I think a lot for me don't have pass marks at this moment in time. That doesn't mean they can't go on and improve, but really right now, it's not at the standard that needs to go and compete with the likes of Celtic and Hearts and teams like that. So that's where they struggle from the consistency side of it, because
what do you
not got enough leaders there.
What do you think he'll do on Thursday? Because in regards to the back line, because I think this is another little conundrum that Rangers have got. Danny Rule has clearly gone to a back three, in large part, I think, because he recognised very early that Magoma can't
right of centre,
but Magoma can't really defend. He's not a proper defender, so he's flipped to a 3 because he's got concerns about Magoma defensively. You don't really have 3 centre halves, because Giga, as we saw yesterday, looked extremely suspect.
Fernandes, we've hardly seen.
Who they spent $3.5 million on. $3.5 million on Fernandes, and you're like, oh my God. So what will he go to a back 4 again, or is he going to play 3? And what does he do?
Tavernier looked better up the park as well, by the way.
Against Bran, by the way, Tav played everywhere. He even was in centre midfield for a while and done really well. But that's what he's capable of, that, for me, in my opinion. Look, I think as a wing back, he's got the ability to get forward and deliver balls. I mean, that's where, over the years, we've seen him do it, and he's been brilliant. I think him as the right of centre instead of Jigger, possibly, and then you bring Aarons onto that kind of right side. Left, I think, is always going to be a problem, because you've only got him. Magoma, like, who else are you going to play there? So, yeah, as a conundrum. Does he go back to a back 4? Possibly. We've seen it against Bran. I don't think it worked, but right enough, he'd only had a couple of days to train with the team. They were very narrow back 4. The wingers were asked to come back in and help, but then they just reverted to type and they jumped out and they were all over the place. So whether he can get into their heads what needs to be said in a short period of time, it's a quick turnaround. We'll have to wait and see. But I think he'll stick to the 3.
And also, because they've got no points on the board, they actually need to win the game.
Need to win. Darrell, you need to win.
Got to win against Rome at home. What an ask that is. Look, I will get to the controversy in a second, but Neil, you heard Martin after the game. He doesn't even know if he's going to be in charge for the final in December. Yeah. Which way do you think the board will go here? There's so many names being mentioned all the time, from Craig Bellamy, Robbie Keane, Kieran McKenna. I mean, Knutson, I think, as well, who's done a brilliant job with Bodo Glimt, by the way. Is there someone in there you think is just a perfect fit?
My initial thought would have been Kieran McKenna. I think they're looking for a younger coach. Obviously, Kieran at his time at Spurs and Man United, and obviously, he's gone out on his own, got 2 promotions, obviously a relegation with Ipswich as well, but he's done really well with Ipswich. I thought he would have been maybe the first choice, really. Whether they can tempt them away is another thing. Bellamy's an interesting one as well. He's getting rave reviews for Wales. I don't know if you know Craig, he's quite a spiky character, but
spoken to him a few times, Neil. Yes,
he would be box office, but I also think he's got a very high IQ for football, and he's very detailed in his work. And obviously, he worked with Vincent Kompany as well. So, those 2 would be standouts for me. Knutson would be, he's been at Bodo Glimt for quite a while, and you wonder why. Because he's had so much success with Bodo for, I don't know, the last 4, 5, 6 years. But again, he's a coach with great pedigree. So, I think they're looking for a younger one. I'm not going to speculate on who that could be, Darrell. It was interesting, Martin's comments saying there's an international break coming up, and maybe that'll give the club the time to, get their man in. He's done okay. He's done the job so far that he's been asked to do. He's appeased. He's settled everything down. He's got the team back playing and winning. So, I think he's really enjoying it. But when you're interim, you don't have that pressure. It all changes. Trust me, it all changes when you do sign that contract permanently.
It was some tracksuit as well, wasn't it?
It was about 3 sizes too big for him, wasn't it?
Remember when he started talking about he had the other choice of the bottoms as well, the tighter pair?
The ones. Brilliant. Robin Hood, he said he looked like fantastic. Right, anyway, listen, just a few minutes to go. Feel free to come in if you want here, by the way, anyone. There's a lot of talk on social media, questions coming in as well about some of the challenges in the game, some of the referees' decisions. I didn't think the Cornelius tackle in the first half was very clever, Michael, and it's kind of gone under the radar a bit. I actually think in European football, this is a red card. And you think recent games you've seen in Europe, I think officials in Europe send you off for that. What do you think?
Personally, I thought the yellow card was the right decision. It follows through. He wins the ball, but he follows through and catches him, I think, just above the ankle. You see it better here. But, Kenny was delaying and delaying and delaying. Personally, I think the yellow card is the right call. But I think it's one of those ones that then falls into the category of, had he shown a red card, I'm not sure VAR would have been overturning it. But I think the yellow was the right call for me.
Neil, Alan, any views?
I agree. I think it's a yellow card.
We were playing it just be play on.
Exactly. In my day, it would have been a good tackle. Honestly, he's got most of the ball. All right, he's caught him a little bit on the follow through, but yeah, it's a robust challenge. Put it that way, but it's not.
See if it's another inch or so higher. I think he's in real bother. I think because he wins the ball and then the follow through right. If it's a couple of inches higher, but
not a great challenge, hence why it's been raised. I don't think we need to see the Asgard one again. I think everyone agrees that's a red card. In this day and age, deliberate or not, it's a red card. The trusty one, everyone seems to be discussing this. Michael, you don't think it's a red card?
Red card.
It does look, Michael, like there's intent here, though, does it not? Because it's clearly the ball is in Butland's hands. So why does Trusty make that decision? That's what I can't get my head around, especially with Celtic leading and 100%. A man up as well. It's madness, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. It is madness. There is no reason for what he did. It doesn't make any sense. And I'm not trying to, project in his head why has he done it. But you need to look at what he's, the force there. He's not, for me, in my opinion, he's not endangering Jack Butland because he effectively touches him with.
You could have got a stud in the eye, though, or anything. He had enough time not to do that. He's made the decision.
Yes.
Following in on that. You see when there's a step just before where probably 99.9% of people would have just ran away and turned. He had that sort of time to make that decision. So
I think he's a very lucky boy, Mikey.
Aye.
I think he's a very, very lucky boy. He
That's
doesn't
what
need
I've
to
said
do
as
it.
well. I've said
The
as well.
ball's already in the goalie's arms. He's
Totally.
it's unnecessary. And we've seen players get sent off for stupidity. That was really stupid from.
It was.
Then he's saying I didn't touch him. I didn't touch him. He did. The more I see it, if I was my goalkeeper, I would be screaming for a red card.
And in European football, just like I said about Cornelius, Neil, you don't get away with it. Obviously, VAR, for whatever reason, they didn't want to get involved in this game. But in Europe, that is any league, actually, pretty much any European game, that is going to be given as a red card.
Darrell, you need to just
deservedly so.
It falls into either serious foul play or violent conduct, right? To get sent off. That instant has to fall into one of those categories.
That instant doesn't look right, though, Michael.
Wait.
Sometimes just look at the game, no?
Darrell, wait. For me, you need to look. Hutz is saying he could have studied him in the head. But you need to look at what actually... Wait there. In the eye. Right, even worse. You need to look at what actually happened. He didn't stud him in the head. And he's fortunate because there's no reason for him to put his foot there. He is fortunate.
I think it's a red for me. I think he's decided, he's made the decision. I understand what you're saying, Michael. I do. But I'm just watching it with my eyes. And I feel there is absolutely no need to do what he done. He had the time to pull out here, run away, done. But he's decided to do that.
I also think you can say that about a lot of things. There's no need to do it. But the final
don't pick people in the head, though. Come on,
Michael. Final one. Let's just get it. Let's get this in if we can.
Well, you need to listen. You need to listen. It's serious foul play. You would think it's serious foul play. A tackle or a challenge that endangers the safety of an opponent.
Yeah.
Just watch it. You don't need to look it up and read about it. It's just
I know the law book. I've done a few games in my time. I think in Europeans matches it's a red card. Right, the Ralston penalty. Neil, we need to move on. 3 minutes left.
No, because you're just talking. You're not listening. It needs to constitute a red card. You need to say, does it endanger the opponent?
Yes,
it does. Or excessive force. So it's not excessive force. It's not excessive force, and for me, it doesn't endanger him because he just touches his head. But he's very,
Maggie, what is it then?
He's very fortunate.
How would you describe that then?
Describe what?
What Trusty did?
He's endangering an opponent.
No, he's not. Because
of course he is. He's kicking him in the head, Michael.
What's he doing
then? My God. If you do that and touch your head, is that you endangering yourself?
But I'm not. It wasn't a hand. It was a.
Funnily enough, in football, if you slap someone in the face gently, you get sent off at times.
But the point is, every touch of the head is not endangering somebody.
But how do you know that's how soft it was?
Because you just, as you said, use your eyes, Hutton. Look at it.
It looked dangerous, mate. It looked dangerous.
Right, listen, you've all had your view in that one. The Ralston penalty, Neil. I'm not sure about this. He's actually slightly pushed before he dives to try and block the ball. The weird thing is, Neil, with the modern laws, if he actually plants his hand under his body and uses it to fall, this is probably not given as a penalty. As I say, I don't think VAR wanted to get involved at all in this match. They wanted to stay right out of it. What's your view on it?
I thought it was really harsh. I don't know what Tony Ralston has to do, and if you look at his arm, but when I saw it live from a distance, I thought, there's a hand involved there. And then when you see it again on the TV, I don't know what else he's supposed to do with his arms. But it's the fact that he's fallen. He does get a bit of a shove from Miofsky, and he's going down, and then he dives. And I think Alan made the point on TV yesterday, the fact that he dives head first and it hits his arm.
That's the only thing I can think of.
It's stopping the ball going. He's blocking the ball probably because he's had a diving motion, if you want to call it that. But it is so harsh. Honestly, it's really tough decision. And then the boys were saying, why is that not a second yellow card? So
that's the next talking point.
I thought that would have compounded it.
Yeah, I would agree with you, but I guess that is the decision the ref then has to make, Michael. Because if they're saying it's a deliberate handball, this is where the inconsistencies come into our game. And is this not what annoys managers and pundits and fans most, Michael?
Well, obviously, the deliberate part, as we all well know, is not the only determining factor. So all we heard in VAR was confirming decision. It hits the elbow below the t-shirt line, and you're going, "Aye, we can all see that." That's not the important point. It's like what's led up to it. The challenge with Miofsky, there's a bit of a coming together, and Ralston has lost his balance once he's moving away from Miofsky. So, by the way, this thing about deliberately diving in front of the ball, you're allowed to do that as a defender. That's what you're meant to do, by the way. And he was never going to be able to use his feet because he was falling down. And as Lenny said, somebody needs to tell me what he's meant to do with his arms.
Exactly.
He's tucked them in on his body. Yes, it's hit his elbow, but oh my word, what's he meant to do? But if you're given the penalty as the officials, it's got to be a second yellow. You've got to send them off. But for me, it wasn't a penalty, shouldn't have been a second yellow. But the refs, the officials have come to this sort of halfway house of, we'll give the penalty and we'll not send them off. And that's not the right, it's not the right call.
I thought, looking at the game yesterday, Darrell, I thought the referee sort of basically in his mind thought, I'm going to let a lot go here today. The Ash card one's so obvious. That he had to give a red card for that. But there was a lot going on in the game. There was a lot of yellow cards being dished out. There could have been more red cards, but I thought he wanted to keep, I got the impression he wanted to keep a lid on that and let a lot go. And as you said, VAR didn't get involved in a lot of things yesterday.
They did not. But don't worry, Alan. Wee Willie will be out in a few weeks anyway, dishing out apologies to both teams, won't he?
Yeah, we'll see what happens when that comes out. That should be interesting. So,
listen, I know it's hard. I know it's hard to referee.
You feel hard done by Huts?
In terms of what? No, because the Asgard is a red card. Look, that changes it, of course. I thought Rangers did do well. Celtic deserved to win. They kind of overran them towards the end. But look, the penalty there, I think it is harsh. I'm trying to think why. And that's why I say to you that diving motion. Because if he was standing upright, just for an example, and he had his hands here and it happened there, we know it's not a penalty. He's never going to get given a penalty against for that. So the only thing I can think of is, yes, they're in by his side, but because he lunges and makes the diving motion and then his elbow's out and it's hit him here, I can only see that being the reason. I think it's harsh. Yeah, if I'd done that and it was given against me, I'd be raging. But it's just where we're at.
Final one, Alan. Do you agree Rangers are right to go to the SFA and ask about the trustee decision? Have they done the right thing? Because the manager didn't want to know post-match.
I'd want to know why would you not want an explanation for it? If you think that is a red card and it's literally 10 minutes after the Asgard one, so it would have a huge bearing on that game, in my opinion. So why would you not want an explanation?
Just say something quickly. I don't know if it's 100% true, but I noticed somebody sent me that Rangers against Slavia Prague, remember Kemar Roof caught the goalkeeper in the head and he actually had a fractured skull. So
yes, vaguely, yeah.
Rangers appealed that. They appealed that, by the way.
But that's not our fault.
You've got some memory, Michael.
Sorry, I'm not sure.
Why is he bringing that up as if it's our fault?
No, sorry. But my point is a bit of consistency. You appeal kicking the guy in the head with studs and a fractured skull, and then you're asking why was a guy no sent off for touching him?
But it is dangerous, Michael. If somebody's head's on the floor and you're going in when you don't need to with your foot, come on, it's dangerous.
I think, Michael, it's a different board now, to be fair, and it's a long time ago, but consistency is the point here, isn't it? Right across the board. We don't get that in Scotland.
See, when clubs play to the galleries, just does my head in, playing to the galleries.
But you do that every week, Mikey, to be fair. You do that every week.
Yeah,
right. Listen, we're almost done. Neil, I was going to ask you lots of other things, and I know we're over time already. The producer's giving me into trouble, but just finally, good win for you Friday night. Are you still, because it's been a while since we've seen you? Are you enjoying it?
Yeah, loving it. It was a great win against a good side, and I think it's the first time we've won there for a few years. So it's just given the squad a real boost. We've done okay so far. We're keeping, we've had 7 clean sheets and 13 games, and I've got a good young side, Darrell, right? They're going to be inconsistent, and they're even inconsistent in the game itself, but we accept that, and what we're trying to do is, develop a team, for going forward. But yeah, I'm enjoying it immensely. It's a great club, and I've got great people behind me as well, so yeah, that's half the battle.
First class. We wish you all the best always, Neil. Thank you very much for joining us tonight as well. Just before we go, a quick reminder, loads of live games. Neil, we can let you go, by the way. I'll let you go and get your dinner. Thank you very much. We'll see you soon. I'll do some promos just after Neil's away there. Loads of live games to come in the league. Remember, St Mirren Hibs, that's the 8th of November. The 29th, here we go. 29th, we've got Kilmarnock, Dundee United Rangers is the 3rd of December. We've got the 27th of December as well. You guys will be busy over the festive period. Aberdeen, Dundee Dundee United. Motherwell Celtic to come 2 on the 30th. Should be a really good game. And don't forget the final confirmed now, the Premier Sports Cup final, Sunday, December the 14th, St Mirren against Celtic, 3:30 kickoff, live, of course, exclusively on Premier Sports. So much to come and so much to talk about, Alan, Michael. That's why we do this show on a Monday. We often disagree, but somehow we remain friends. We will see you next Monday night on the Social Club. Bye for now.